Shavua Tov. So we're going to do a psalm this morning that the truth of the matter was thinking about it, I'm sort of surprised myself that we haven't done this psalm yet because number one, it has an unbelievably famous pasuk in it that we'll get to in I don't know, half an hour or so. However, this is a psalm that features in our liturgy, and that's of course what I try to emphasize here. And I'm embarrassed to say this is one of those psalms that I've said many, many times, but I never really thought about. The most popular usage of this psalm is when you're in a shiva house, which sadly, as a rabbi, I did a lot. Which sadly, as a rabbi, I did a lot. If you don't say Tachanun that day, you say this psalm. There's a longer Psalm 47 that we say, 49, sorry, on a regular basis. But when hey Jay, when you go to the house and it's a non-Tachanun day, so you say this particular psalm. Also, there are many people that recite this at funerals. When I've performed funerals, I've never used it myself, but I've been to funerals where it's said. And if you're in a Sephardi shul, which when I go to Beersheba and visit my now Sephardi daughter, I get to do, they recite this before Ma'ariv Motzei Shabbat. But the real question you should be thinking about that we're going to come to at the end is how come we recite this psalm in a shiva house? That's the real question that we're going to ask ourselves when we get to the end of the poem. So the poem begins with the 16. I meant what happened was I made the sheet when I was still jet lagged and out of my last Wednesday to get it here Thursday morning, and I forgot to put. People have been asking me, make sure you put your name on the top and I did it last time, and then this time I was just, too zonked to get my act together. But the poem starts off with a mystery word, and the mystery word is michtam, and the truth is nobody knows what it means. The Septuagint translates it as. Well, I'm not going to tell you the Greek. I'll just tell you the English, as engraved in stone. And it's that interpretation that Hirsch, where's Pessy this morning? She usually quotes Hirsch for me. Yeah, that Hirsch says that's the essence of the poem. The essence of the poem is that David HaMelech felt that this poem is a declaration of what he wants to be engraved in stone with him all the time. That he wants the statements of this poem to be with him all the time. And we're going to get back to that idea when we get to verse 8, that there are concepts in here that we're supposed to have with us all the time, as if they are engraved in stone. Now, having said that, I must tell you that most of the like historian and literary critics believe that michtam is probably a musical note. That
a song of a michtam.
Right. And so, right, because they don't know how to translate. When they say a song of a michtam, they mean it's somehow either a musical instrument that we don't know of, or a musical style that we don't know of. So a lot of people believe that when David HaMelech, who of course was not only a warrior and a king and a poet, was also a musician, that he was really referring to a musical format by saying michtam. However, the Gemara decided to be cute. So the Gemara said that it's really two different words. It's mach and tam. And the two words mach and tam mean humble and modest. Tamim, simple in the sense of being, being humble, modest, not unassuming. So the word the word is a compound of two words, meaning that David HaMelech was stating this poem as an expression of his anivut, of his profound humility. And he felt that he could only survive the trials, tribulations of being a king by being appropriately modest. Okay, and then he gets into the first part of the poem. First part of the poem talks about how he got to where he is, and he said, "Shamreini Kale, God, guard me, protect me, be with me all the time. Ki chasiti ba, because I have looked for chas in you." So the question is exactly what is chas? Now we know the word chas because they say chas v'shalom, but the word chas means to, here I get the translation from it says refuge. I don't actually like that. Chas means protect me. So refuge, I guess, okay, but it means like protection. So chas v'shalom, you're like protect me from this, okay, that this shouldn't happen. So what he's saying is, guard me, Hashem, because I have put my faith of trust and protection in you. And the Sfat Emet says an amazing idea that I think is very powerful and fits into the middle part of the poem. Maybe we should come back to it after we do the middle. But let's start by doing this. He says Hashem protects people not only because they have zchuyot. We usually think of, oh, God, protect me because I did a mitzvah. And quite often we say that when we do a mitzvah. This mitzvah should stand for me, and be with me forever, and be, be written in my book. We think about that and talk about that. It's a Rosh Hashanah concept. But the Sfat Emet says something different. He said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't just protect those people who do good things, do mitzvot, and have all sorts of merit. Hashem protects those people who only rely on Hashem. That there is a tremendous merit, even if you're not such a wonderful person, but if you have rejected all other if you have rejected all other forms of protection, if you have said, "Oh, I don't rely on," of course, initially it means avodah zarah. We're going to talk about avodah zarah in the middle. But it can mean I'm not going to rely on humans. I'm going to rely on a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Those are the people with that simple faith that Hashem protects. Now remember, the Sfat Emet was talking to Hasidim, and especially in the early period of Hasidut. He was a little bit later, but especially in the early part of Hasidut, the people that became Hasidim were very pashut. They were the Amcha, the Hamonam, the regular people that, it was sort of an anti-scholarly movement. And so this kind of statement that what does Hashem want from us? Faith. That's a beautiful statement for everybody, but especially for the more simple peasants that became the Hasidim. I don't mean to put them down. They weren't wonderful people, but we're not the scholarly crowd. The scholarly crowd, that was Lithuanians. Yeah, I know. I'm a Litvak, so I have to be careful. I don't want to put down the Litvaks. Okay, so those are the people that really deserve God's salvation and help, are those people that truly have this simple faith that Hashem is the only protection that they have. So Shamreini Kel Ki Chasiti Ba, I only went to you. I didn't go elsewhere. In the ancient world, that was a big deal because we know a lot of Jews, worshiped the avodah zarah. They were playing both sides of the street. That was very common in the ancient world. Okay, Bet. This is a difficult puzzle. They're all difficult, but this one, okay. Who's talking? Amart Lashem, Hashem Ata. Okay, so I said to Hashem, you are my master. Okay. Oh, and I didn't separate the first God's name. Boy, I wasn't in good shape last Wednesday. Okay. Who's talking? You said. Who's the you? Amart. So some people say it's not Amart, it's really Amarti, and it means I. However, I think a more clever interpretation, the Malbim, a lot of people say, is he's talking to his neshama, his soul. So it is him. Hi, Shavuot. Thank you, Bessie. So he's addressing his neshama, which is feminine. That's why it's a feminine. So Amart la Hashem, you, my soul. Remember we said in the first pasuk, I only had faith in Hashem. I only had eyes for you, right? So he says, I only had faith in you, Hashem. So then he says here, I know, we quote from a lot of people. I guess Cole Porter works, right? Okay, so what happens is, my soul only said to Hashem, Hashem ata, you are my Lord. You are my Lord and Master. Tovati bal alecha. My goodness, whatever favor, whatever positive things I have received came from no place else but you. Nobody else but you. Okay? As we continue with song lyrics. Okay. So Baal Alecha. So the word Baal is going to come up a few times in the poem. And not something, not this, not that, only you. And this is hinting back at that idea that I said in the name of the Sfat Emet, that David HaMelech is pushing an agenda of exclusivity with Hashem. And the terminology Baal, without, is sort of saying it's all you and nobody else but you. Okay, only you and nobody else but you. Okay, and now he says something fascinating that David HaMelech says also in Ashrei, in Psalm 145, which is L'kedoshim asher ba'aretz hema. How do I know? How do I know that this is how I should behave? Where did I get this from? It's from the Kedoshim, those holy people who are throughout the land and have always been here. Now, we can only achieve spiritual greatness if we observe those who preceded us. I mean, it's almost it's almost like that. The scientific quote. I could see this because I was standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Newton is credited with that, that he accomplished so much because he was standing on the shoulders of giants. So, lahavda, we say the same thing. I know how to daven because this is what David HaMelech says in Psalm 145 in Ashrei. I only know how to do it because I saw, my Rabbi, my father, my grandfather daven, so I know how to daven. And he's saying the same thing here. I knew to rely exclusively on you, Hashem, because of those Kedoshim, those holy ones who were in the land. The holy ones who were in the land, Va'adirei. And those, Adirhu, it's the same word. And though Adirei means those powerful ones. What's the mighty ones, okay? Those powerful ones. And they taught me, Kol Chefzi Bam, that all of my chafetz, all of my desires, all of my wants and needs, they're all in there. I don't have to look anyplace else. That's how I got to where I am today, by only relying on Hashem. And I knew how to do that because of the great tzaddikim who preceded me. Now, he doesn't mention Shmuel Hanavi, but I think you have to assume that he has in mind people like Shmuel Hanavi, who was his spiritual guide, but he also had his father. The Gemara says that Yishai was one of 3 people in history who never sinned. And that's, that's pretty special. So he had his father and Shmuel, he had these Kedoshim to model himself after, and that's how he could do it. So he's just told us about his past. So that's the beginning of the poem, is in the past. This is how I got to where I am today. Now he's going to talk about the present. And when he talks about the present, he has to be very specific in his rejection of something that's going on. And when I was in America, I'm working on a project with a friend of mine, a neighbor of mine in Baca, an English fellow, and so we've been interviewing Rabbanim. The project is hopefully will end up in a book, but we're trying to figure out what happened in the late 60s, early 70s that Judaism changed. Because if you remember back, most of us can remember back to the 50s and the 60s. Not all of us, but most of us can remember the 50s and the 60s. Judaism in America and in England, the same thing, wasn't so firm. But all of a sudden, in the late 60s, it became very firm. So we've been talking to people, and the interesting thing that a number of these Rabbanim that I've been talking to have been saying is that because of certain things, the 6-Day War, whatever, okay? Of course, I spoke to a Chabadnik, and he said it was because of the Rebbe, but it doesn't make a difference. We were able to reject what had been going on before. In the 50s and into the early 60s, especially in America, I can't speak as much about England, everybody wanted to be the same. There was like everybody wanted to be Ozzie and Harriet. I mean, everybody wanted to be a wasp. Everybody was white bread. And what happened was at some point in the 60s, we started saying, I can be different. I can reject that model. And David Melech is saying the same thing here. We are rejecting an existing or pre-existing model. But for him, the pre-existing model wasn't middle America. For him, the pre-existing model that he rejected was Avodah Zarah. Because idolatry was the norm of the world. And that's what he's doing here. Yirbu atzvotam acher maharu. Greatly increased are their etzev. Now, etzev, my translation from it says sorrows. I don't like sorrows so much for the translation. You have sorrows? I mean, it's not wrong. What?
I thought it was sadness.
Sadness. Etzev is the same word as, it means my nerve endings. Suffering. It's a combination. It really means my gut feelings. That what happened is these people have had an increase of their nervousness, their sadness, sorrow, their feelings of inadequacy. Okay, one of my favorite lines that we say in the morning davening is we thank Hashem who is the Rofeh Etzev, that he is the doctor, he's the nerve doctor. He helps us deal with our psychological issues. Okay, and Etzev which comes from nerve, or nervous as well, but is really a psychological state, a negative psychological state. Okay, and these issues have increased because they rushed after acher. They rushed after another. And who is that other? Avodah Zarah. And in this context, but what's wonderful about this pasuk is, it leaves it up in the air. In the next pasuk is going to specify Avodah Zarah. But in this pasuk, you don't know what they're running after. It's just something other than Hashem, because in every civilization, there's another definition for the other. I think, if you go back to the 50s and 60s, we're running after being like everybody else. One of the rabbis that I spoke to said that today, Judaism in the modern or centrist Orthodox movement, more so than in the Haredim. I spoke to Haredim also, got an interesting point of view from Lakewood. But amongst the modern or centrist Orthodox, money has become a big deal. I spoke with a rabbi who said to me, a congregant came to him and said he can't make ends meet because he's only making between $400,000 and $500,000 a year. And he wasn't only complaining about, he was complaining about his life. I mean, what's wrong with this picture? When I was a kid, if you told me I can make almost $500,000 a year, I thought I'd be on easy street, but I'm finding that I can't make ends meet, because as your money grows, so do your desires, and so does your budget, and it's just all, yeah. And he was complaining. He said that people in his shul, is a very large shul in a suburb of New York. I don't want to mention the name of the shul because I want you to buy the book. No, I don't want to mention the name of the shul because I don't want to do any. Maybe I turn off the tape and then I'll say. He says there's a lot of talking in his shul, and in his minor surveys of what they're talking about business. And this gentleman, I'll move over. This gentleman teaches a little bit in YU, teaches a course in YU. And he said when he went to, and this is true of me, the best students in YU when we went to YU, I wish I could say they were in Smicha, they weren't. The best students in YU when we were there were pre-med. That the goal was to be a doctor. He said today the best students are all in business. And that the school in YU that is bursting at the seams is the Sai Sim School of Business. And so the acher is every door or every country or however you want to say it, every kufa has their own acher, which is so beautiful that David HaMelech doesn't specify. If you're running to anything other than a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and the funny thing is, in the case that this rabbi was describing, they were running to acher in shul. That's what's so sad, but it's true. In other words, that their God is something other, small g, is something other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That they can't say, La Hashem Adonai Ata, you are my Lord. They can't say that because something else is the controlling factor in their life. And that's the matzav that he's talking about. And then when you get to pasuk, or the end of the pasuk, sorry, it's still part of Dalit, I apologize. And we get to the end of the pasuk, he specifies avodah zarah. But avodah zarah then meant true idolatry. But today avodah zarah can mean worship. It means worshiping anything other than a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That whatever the most important thing in your life, whatever the most important thing in your life is your avodah. That is your worship. And if that avodah is anything other than a Kadosh Baruch Hu, then it is zara. Because zara means strange, other. And that's acher and zara are very similar. They mean the outside. And that's what David HaMelech is talking about. And now he's talking about himself. But I've resisted. Bala sichnis niskehem midam. I don't do nesech. Now, nesech literally means libations. Okay? It's a fancy word for pour. I don't pour out blood to them. So in other words, I don't do the avoda for their other. Okay? Ubal esa et shmotam al sfatai. And I never even mention their names on my lips. You can't get me to say the names. And of course, this is the source I mean, it's a pasuk in Chumash as well, that people don't want to say anything that is considered avodah zarah, which is why a lot of from Jews won't say, Yeshu. I won't say it right now, although for teaching a history class I would. Because I don't think that was really the same kind of avodah zarah, but that doesn't make any difference. But there's a minhag not to say any, and this is one of the sources for it. Like I said, there's a pasuk as well. But that we go out of our way to not even say the names of the idolatry. I'm sorry.
A very cynical comment. Maybe I won't make it.
I think I've been pretty cynical the last few minutes.
They won't say Yeshu,
Right.
but they might cheat in business.
Oh, of course.
Excuse me.
No, Rivki, no, you're right. But I'm going to go back to the Sfat Emet. The Sfat Emet says, even if you don't have merits, because you really haven't been that good a person. However, you do put your sole trust in Hashem, right? In God we trust. That if we all others pay cash, right? That if you, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will reciprocate. So there's something to that, even though it's wrong. I cannot excuse these really otherwise religious people who cheat in business and cheat on the taxes and all of that. I agree with you wholeheartedly. However, in this context, we're making a very powerful theological statement. And that theological statement is we must begin the process by having total faith in Hashem. And hopefully, if you do have enough faith in Hashem, you'll stop cheating because you'll have faith that Hashem will provide. The people that are cheating, whether it's their customers or the government, those people, I don't care how frum they look, they really don't have faith in Hashem. Because if they really had faith in Hashem, they wouldn't cheat. However, they do have one other thing going for them that the Sfat Emet was mentioning, that David HaMelech was referring to. They may not be, what they're supposed to be, but they still have some merit for their exclusive approach to Hashem. That has value, is what David HaMelech is saying. We're going to go beyond that. But that's where we started. Okay. So now he's talking about the present situation. I feel I'm in good shape, and I don't have all of their sadness and sorrows and guilt. I mean, Atzvotam is all of these psychological issues. Okay? I don't have all of their psychological issues because I have not compromised my religious allegiance to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, I can have I can have a clearer conscience. I don't have all of these issues. I don't have all these issues. I don't need a psychiatrist because I have faith in Hashem. Okay, sounds nice. Hashem, menat chelki v'kosi. God, you are my mana, my portion, my chelek, which also means my portion, and my kos, which also means my portion. A kos doesn't only mean a glass, just like in modern English, a cup can mean either the container or can mean the measure. All three of those terms can mean measure. You are my measure. Everything about me is measured through you. That's it. There is no other k'nei midah. There is no other measuring stick in my life other than you. Everything about me is measured through you. Now, why three? Okay, so I mean, you can say it's Torah, Avoda, Gemilut Chasadim. Okay, I mean, that my relationships with myself, with you, Hashem, and with others, it's all measured with the same measuring stick, is through the lens of Torah and your teaching. But you can come up with, it was true in the past, it's true in the present, it will be true in the future. I mean, you can do what you want. Why it's three? We like three. 3 is the number is the smallest number that represents stability, because Chazal talk about the three-legged stool. The three-legged stool is very stable. Okay. Once you put a fourth leg on, like the table, it starts to shake. Right. Okay. Your most stable configuration is 3. We like 3. Okay. Ata tomich gorali. You are the support for my goral. Okay. Now, goral is another word that can be translated as portion, but here it means more than portion. As opposed to the other 3 really meant like a measure, a very specific, 15 ounces or something, right? Goral means my portion in the sense of my fate, my destiny. You are my destiny. That's another song quote. Okay, and that's what we're saying. My goral, I have thrown in my goral, my lot, with you. I'm all in on a Kadosh Baruch Hu. They sound like bumper stickers. Okay, but he goes on. He goes on with this. So okay, we're talking about the present. In the present, I have rejected Acher, and I am totally in on you. Now he goes on to describe it a little bit better. Chavalim nafluli ban imim. Now, chavalim is an interesting word. Chavalim here means a measure. Is another kind of measure. How does he translate it here? A chevel is a rope. Allocations. I have portions. They used a rope. Now we know that a rope can be a measure because we've watched old movies. How they measure the depth of the ocean with ropes, or the depth of the river. Okay, Mark Twain, right? There's enough space. They used ropes, weighted ropes, to do that. Okay, and that's what they did in the British Navy also. Okay, they also, by the way, could tell the speed of the ship with ropes, but they were not. Okay, ropes can be used. Knots, correct? How many knots on the rope? Right. So what happened was in the ancient world, they measured fields with a set amount of rope. They had a rope that was 20 feet long, a long rope, and that's how they measured the fields. So again, chavalim, which can mean cables or ropes or whatever, in this case means portions, measurements, land measurements, okay? Nafluli bin imim, they have, when I got my portion, it was na'im, it was nice. So as we're moving on, first he said, I reject Avodah Zarah. I'm not going there for help. I only look to you for help, Hashem. And now the next step, and it's a good decision. It's working out well. I just got my latest statement from Hashem, and and the stock market's done well for me. Okay, I'm in Ne'im. It's very nice. It's very pleasant. I'm in a good place. Af nachalat or nachala. Some people say that the taf really should be a hey. Okay, af nachalat shafra alai, and my portion has been. Pick a nice word, and you can put it in here. Lovely. Okay? My portion has been enough. This is a great word, Shapir. This is the name Shapiro. The name Shapiro comes from this word. Yeah. So means good. It's been, I happen to like the word lovely. It doesn't mean you can say anything you want. It's been really good. It's been perfect. It's been excellent. Okay? The Gemara, I'm sorry? Shufra the Shufra. The Gemara says Shapir dummy. Okay? It's good. Okay? That's a better way of doing it. So verse 4, he's talking about the present situation. Verse 4, rejection of the other. Verse 5, statement of his commitment to Hashem solely. And number 6, and it's working out well for me. It's pleasant. So the two words that he used on Na'im and Shefer, both of which mean a pleasant, positive situation. It's been good. Zion. Avarech et Hashem. As a result of this, what am I going to do? I'm going to daven. In other words, when I daven out of thanksgiving for all that I have, which is interesting because we tend to think of our best davening comes when we're in trouble, which there's a truth to that for other reasons, right? But he's saying I'm going to daven because things are so good, and I recognize so powerfully that it comes from you, Hashem. Avarechet Hashem. I'm going to bless Hashem. I'm going to daven to Hashem. I'm going to thank Hashem. Asher Ya'atzani, who has given me eitzes, advice, who has guided me. Af leilot yisruni chilyatoi. And I'm going to say something else. Even the darkness. Now, leilot both means nighttime, but also means bad times. In other words, geula is daytime, and galus is nighttime, and that's why we say Ga'al Yisrael when the sun rises. We've talked about this before. And Elie Wiesel's first book, Night, describing the Holocaust. It was night, the night of the Holocaust. Okay, so even the bad times, even the nights, even the bad times, what happens is Chil Yotai, my kishkas. Literally means my kidneys. My kidneys gave me musar. What does that mean? Now, so in the ancient world, in the pre-modern world, we often attributed different attributes to different organs. Okay. By the way, they didn't realize that the brains were in the head, and generally speaking, the klayot were the seat of all emotions. The heart was the seat of intellect. So even at night, even when things are bad, everybody has bad. Everybody has bad times. Okay, what happens is I emotionally am able to deal with it. Why? Or intellectually, emotionally, together. They're both EQ, right? Emotional, your emotional quotient is as important as your IQ, your intellectual quotient, right? I'm able to deal with it because they give me musar. What does that mean? Something's going wrong. And so my mind and my heart are telling me, you have to do better. I feel I'm in this night because I haven't lived up to my obligations. I haven't been as good as I could have been. So I can take even the downturns in my life with equanimity, which is going to become an important word in a moment, because of my total faith in Hashem. I can handle this. Now, sometimes I have trouble with this. I've been to, Shiva homes of, generally they were Hasidim, generally Chabad, who just have suffered terrible tragedies and seem to have not, in any way are suffering as a result of it. And I have trouble handling it because I personally don't think it's healthy, but okay, I have trouble. But their answer to me would be, I can handle it because of what David Melech was telling me. Now, all I have to do is, reassess myself, and I'll be able to handle this and move on. Okay, good for them. Okay. Sometimes I think we do have to, I think there's reason for for sadness too sometimes, but okay, whatever. But the claim is that if you have enough faith, you can handle no matter what happens. Okay, I can't. I mean, I can eventually, but it takes me a while, as opposed to these people that seem to be able to do it immediately. Okay. Now comes the most famous line in the pasuk, famous line in the psalm, and one of the top half a dozen psukim in all of Tehillim. And look, I'm looking over at because we're also in a shul. They don't have a shiviti here, but many all Sephardic shuls, and many Ashkenazi shuls have a shiviti. Now, what's a shiviti? It's a chart with this pasuk. And it says at the top, Shiviti, and then in big letters, Hashem, then in small letters, Lenegdi, Tamid, and then it has, look at the pasuk, then it has a Chaf, Mem, Bet, Aleph. They abbreviate the rest of the pasuk. So the big word is Hashem. There's a Shiviti that's like, 3/4 the size of the Hashem, which is 100%, and then about 50% size, they have the next, Lenegdi Tamid, and then they have the abbreviation for the end of the pasuk, Ki Mimini Balemot. Okay. How do we translate this pasuk? It's not so simple. The common translation is the one I have in front of me, which is not going to be sufficient. I have set Hashem before me always. Shiviti Hashem, I'm always holding Hashem in front of me. Okay? But a lot of people have other interpretations for what do we mean by Shiviti, and we connect it to this concept of shaveh. Shaveh means equal. And that let me read to you from, this is from Hirsch. So you're going to have that in front of you. I don't know if it's okay. There are those who labor under the delusion that God must be conceived of as someone who towers far above earthly affairs and who thinks all things terrestrial to be far below him. But as for me, says David, my conception of him is very different. I have perceived his presence on the level of my own earthly existence. I'm holding Hashem on the same level with me. Not that I am equal to him, but Hashem is here because Hashem lowers himself to be with us down here in the muck and mire, right?
That's so much like the Sfardim who saw Takadosh Baruch Hu right in their head.
Yes, that's the Shiviti.
Exactly.
That's the Shiviti. I no longer seek him in the heights, but I have set him. And I think this is interesting. I no longer seek him in the heights, but the descendants of Hirsch, of course, sought Hashem in the heights. Washington Heights, right. Okay. The Breuer's community on Bennett Strasse? Okay. So I no longer seek him in the heights, but I have set him before my eyes in everything I do on earth. I see Hashem in everything. Now, he's not going there, but if he were a hippie, he'd say, I see Hashem in the flower and in the tree, but he's not going there, but you can, from this, go there, right? Nothing here below is so small or so insignificant that God would be indifferent to it. Whatever I am, whatever I wish to accomplish lies clearly before his eyes. I shall hold fast to this conviction. Tamid. Tamid, the most important word here is tamid. Hold fast forever. And shall never again allow myself to succumb to even one moment of weakness. There was a great movie about the English Navy called Captain and Commander. I think it was Captain and Commander. Master and Commander? Anyways, it was with Russell Crowe before I knew what a terrible person he was. But in the movie, it was based on a book. In the movie, the guy that holds I feel like saying steering wheel, but you know what I mean, the helm, okay? It's a big wheel. He had tattooed on his fingers on hold, H-O-L-D, F-A-S-T, hold fast. And that, to a certain extent, is the whole trick of life. You gotta hold fast. The problem is, what do you hold fast to? Now, to a certain extent, it's the steering wheel. But to the great extent of, and this is exactly what Hirsch is saying, that what you're holding fast to is Hashem right in front of you. And that's a very, very powerful idea. Now, so I just read from Hirsch. Now I'm gonna read from the Ramah, Rav Moshe Isserles. The first comment of Rav Moshe Isserles, the Ramah, on the Shulchan Aruch, is this line. As he begins the Shulchan Aruch, the part Orach Chaim, which, by the way, the quote Orach Chaim is in our poem. We're going to get to that in maybe we'll get to it next week. Okay, we'll see how we're doing on time in a minute. Okay, but this is a translation of the first comment of Reb Moshe Isserles on the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch, of course, is written in 1554. In 1572, the Ramah's Perush on it comes out. Okay, Shulchan Aruch is the set table. The Ramah called his Perush the Mapa, the tablecloth. Okay, we just say, Rabbi Yosef Kara, the Mechaber, and the Ramah, but they called themselves the table, the set table, and the tablecloth. Here we go. And by the way, he's paraphrasing the Rambam, which is interesting. He's paraphrasing the Rambam because the Rambam was a Sephardi, and of course the Ramah, writing in Krakow, was an Ashkenazi. The first written source for this famous idea, Mimoshe ad Moshe lo kam k'Moshe, from the time of Moshe until Moshe, no one has risen like Moshe, which people apply and to the Rambam and is on his kever on the place that supposedly is kever in Tveria. The first place it was ever written that we know of was on the tombstone of the Ramah. The term Rav Moshe Isserles was said about Rav Moshe Isserles apparently before it was said about the Rambam. We have no record going back to he died in 1574. That's when his tombstone went up. We have no record of anyone using that expression for the Rambam before 1574. The first record we have of it is in the 1700s, 200 years later.
Using this expression, Kivit Hashem?
Oh, no. The expression, Mimoshe ad Moshe lo kam k'Moshe. So the Sephardim say that's the Rambam. We say that's the Ramah, because we're Ashkenazim. Okay. So here's the quote. But again, he's paraphrasing the Rambam. David HaMelech says, I have set Hashem before me always because he is at my right hand. I shall not falter. That's the end of the verse, which we haven't even read yet. I do not turn my thoughts away from Hashem. He is like my right hand, which I never can forget even for a moment. This is an essential principle for all of the Torah and for achieving the lofty heights of the righteous. For we do not sit, move, and occupy ourselves when we are alone at home in the same manner we do in the presence of the king. He's using this as now what Rav Raphael Hirsch is saying is more philosophic. He's saying more musar, and that is, if I'm at home and nobody's watching, I don't always behave the same way as when people are watching. However, we speak and open our mouths as we please when we are with the people of our own household and our relatives, but not so when we are in a royal assembly. If we desire to attain human perfection and to be truly men of God, we must awaken from our sleep and bear in mind that the great King, who is always over us and is always joined to us, is greater than any earthly king, greater than David and Shlomo. His glory fills the world and perceives our every deed. When the perfect bear this in mind, They will be filled with Yirat Hashem, humility and purity, with a true, not merely an apparent, reverence, Yira, and respect, kavod, for Hashem. In other words, he's saying this line is a musar. The musar is you have to recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always watching. Hashem is, the CCTV. It's always there. Okay, the red light is always on. So never behave in a way that you would be embarrassed if you got the tape played back to you, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always there, which is a beautiful introduction to the Shulchan Aruch, right? Because the Shulchan Aruch is going to tell you how to behave. And so what he's saying is, and I'm telling you how to behave, but I'm also saying, and you should behave this way no matter who's there, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always watching. Okay? If we were George Orwell, we'd say Big Brother. Okay? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always watching. And that's a beautiful way to start the Shulchan Aruch. However, philosophically, emotionally, I really love what Rav Hirsch said, of course. I mean, it's just that, sometimes out of false modesty, I could think, what does Hashem care about me? And I could convince myself that that's true, until you look at the word shiviti, which means you have to have that lahashvot. The Sfat Emet, writing around the same time as Rav Hirsch, a little bit later, not much later. Rav Hirsch dies in 1880. And the Sfat Emet wrote this in the 1870s. Now, Rav Hirsch had already written, because this came out in the 40s, 1840s, maybe 1850. So he'd already written it. But he takes this idea and he puts in this, he's not disagreeing with Rav Hirsch. He's really adding to Rav Hirsch. And he says, I have to take everything shaveh. If good things happen, if bad things happen, it shouldn't affect my overall relationship with Hashem. I should be able to remain in my relationship with Hashem no matter what hand was dealt to me at that moment. That's shiviti, that I've got this, this equanimity. And I have to keep my relationship with Hashem on an even keel. That's much more similar to Rav Hirsch than to the Ramah. But all three of these positions are very, very important. And we can understand why it became the minhag in so many Batei Knesset to have in front of you when you daven, Shivite Shan Leidur. Many, by the way, many Svardish Sidurim either have it on the cover or have a Shiviti page inside. So you can turn to it and you can look and Shivite Hashem Leidur Tamid. Okay, the Ramah seems to say that beyond what I read to you from this translation, but he goes on to say that you should really visualize Yud Kei Vav Kei. It sounds like the Ramah is saying that at some point in your davening, it should be akin to meditation. And that the meditation should cause you to focus on the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Now, I have trouble with that because I'm not very good at meditating. So I have in my house, I have I have what's called the Kabbalistic hay, which is two hays. One, an upper hay that's a white hay in a black background, and the bottom half is black hay on a white background. So I can focus on a hay. I don't know, anybody meditate here? No, so when you meditate, you can focus on something to help you meditate. I can handle one letter. I can't handle four. It's like too much for me to get my head around. And so I use a hay. But it's a similar idea. And what happened was it bothered me when I saw it. but then I printed a copy of it. I didn't frame it or anything. I saw somebody wrote a Shiviti Hashem with a hey. I said, why'd you do that with a hey? It's a piece of art. You want to keep. I was in Teaneck, and I got so upset. They had over the Aron Kosh, they had a pasuk, and they didn't write Shem Hashem. They wrote a hey for Shem Hashem. I said, what's the matter with them? It's in stone. It's not going anywhere. The show has prayer books, and they write God's name in paper. If you're going to put it in paper, you can definitely put it in stone, right? I mean, if it's permanent, you can put it. I don't understand. Okay. There's a lot of things I don't understand, but this one bothered me. So when I looked at this, I said, whoa, that's good for me, because I can do Shiviti Hashem. It's just a hey. So I can focus on the hey, and I can handle that. So, but it should be Yud Ke Vav Ke. And so really the Ramah says that part of davening is that kind of focused thinking that we tend to call meditation. Hitbodedut. Okay, if we can use the term from Rabbi Nachman. Okay? So let's go back to the pasuk. Let's go back to the pasuk. We'll finish the pasuk. We'll finish the poem next week. We'll probably start another poem next week, but we'll finish the poem next week. Ki mini bal emot. I hold God in front of me. That's step one. Step number two is ki, because, or that. Mimini, Hashem is on my right side, is right next to me. If I sense that presence under those circumstances, Baal Emot, he translated, I shall not falter. You can say, I shall not fall. I can maintain my stability. Look, I know we're blessed to have a president who's a stable genius. Okay, however, it's most people in this room are Americans, aren't we?
Oh, so he's our president? No.
I mean, this guy didn't vote for me. I think he's still my president. I can't.
Voted for him, but he's not my president.
Yeah, okay, but he likes the word stable. Okay, but I'm not sure how he's using it. But it's where horses are kept. And they keep horses in a stable. Very good. Okay, I can't compete punning with you. So anyway, what happens is we're being told here that we're supposed to do everything we can to remain stable. Stability is a requirement for proper Torah observance. For a proper relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu requires stability. But it's a two-way street. And that's what the Sfat Emet was saying before. But the relationship requires stability, but the relationship also provides stability. And that's very important. That's very, very important. We want to remain as stable as we can so that we can accomplish as much as we possibly can. It's the fluctuations that often prevent us from being as productive and as and as fulfilling as we really want to be. And that's what we're saying in this pasuk. It sometimes, to me, it's a little. I think this last idea is very, very beautiful. So it sometimes bothers me that when they put it on the Shiviti, they abbreviate it. They just have the Kaf Mem Bet Aleph, okay, because it's important that Kadosh Baruch Hu is on my right hand. Now, what bothers me also is I'm a lefty, but the Ramah solved that problem. So the Ramah, whenever he talks about left-handed people, he says, Itayad shesmol hayamin shalom. In other words, my left hand is what the Torah means when it says the right hand. I thought that was very nice of him to give, to help out us southpaws, to do that. But this is extremely important. Number one, my life is best when I am in a stable place. But I get to that stable place by Shiviti Hashem. Whether it's the pshat of the the Musar pshat of the Ramah, or it's the philosophic pshat of Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, doesn't make any difference. We get the stability from Hashem. Now, it's important to have the stability in our relationship with Hashem, but we also get the stability from Hashem. That's the two parts of the puzzle. And they really function well together. They really function well together. We should do this all the time. Our whole lives should be like that. However, halavai, we could accomplish it when we daven. That's a good start. A good start on this process is being able to focus on this for the 5 minutes Yisei Shmon Esrei. Because, sometimes we have trouble even doing that. But we have to keep that focus. And that's what David HaMelech is telling us. Just keep HaKadosh Baruch Hu in focus all the time. Okay, we'll finish the poem next week, but it's not that much left. So, but remember the question. The question is, why do we recite this poem in a Shiva house? Okay, so we'll answer the question next week. Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay, Shavua Tov, everybody.